Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, I'm delighted to have Minister Bill Johnston. He is the WA Minister for Mines, Petroleum and Energy, as well as Corrective Services and Industrial Relations. He's a busy guy. He's also the member for Cannington. So welcome to Small Caps. Very nice to see you, Minister. First up, I want to say congratulations. WA Resources delivered $231 billion, ladies and gentlemen, $1 billion in sales in the 21-22 year. So that is that a record? It's a big number.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And yes, it is a record. It's quite an achievement. And not only that, there was 157,000 people working directly in the resources industry here in Western Australia. So things are going pretty well, which is always a good thing.
Last time you were on Small Caps was 3 years ago. You were talking to my colleague, and it was just as COVID hit. And I think one of your comments was, look, this is a bad disease. We remember WA shut its borders. Now that everything's opened up again, is there still a challenge with getting people over there? Is there an employment challenge at the moment?
Well, we certainly have a lot of labour demand in Western Australia, and it's good to have the problem that things are going so well that you need more people. So immigration has not recovered since the end of COVID, but we'd certainly welcome new arrivals in Western Australia, whether they're moving from interstate or from overseas. There's certainly many skilled jobs here in Western Australia, and we're looking for new people to fill those skilled jobs.
Now, I note that WA really is on the forefront of, I guess, this future-facing commodities, the critical minerals area, and just recently the land that was secured by Wyloo Metals and IGO from the West Australian government. It seems like there's a real emphasis on critical minerals moving forward. How important is that to WA and to you as a minister?
Well, it's critical to the world that we do better in decarbonisation. And I always like to say that the global pathway to decarbonisation runs through Western Australia, because we've got so many of the critical minerals that are going to be so important as we move to this new energy agenda. We really, we've got such a strong position in the minerals that the world needs, and we're now looking to move into the downstream and the midstream for battery chemicals and for rare earths. And we've got some great investments here in Western Australia. The Wyloo Metals IGO investment is an example of that, where they've got a plan for a precursor chemical plant in Kwinana to add to our wide range of chemical plants here in Western Australia that are producing materials for this new energy transition.
Is that important, Minister, to have? Because I talk to a lot of companies, and many of them are in the sort of the exploration side of things. Then we've got the big companies like the BHPs and the Rios. But I guess the question for you is it important for us to go more downstream when you talk about chemical facilities rather than just the raw materials? Is that important to the West Australian government?
Yes, it's very important to the West Australian government. We're trying to add value to our raw materials.
Right.
And there's a good reason to see this investment here in Western Australia. It's a good location because we do have a skilled workforce. We've got the land that's needed. We're familiar with the byproducts, and we can handle the byproducts and the waste stream, which is very important. And there's a carbon benefit by processing the materials closer to the source. Means that you ship them a smaller distance. That reduces your carbon footprint. Remembering that there might be 4 tonnes of raw material for 1 tonne of chemical product. So that's 3 tonnes of waste. So you're moving that waste shorter distances. Also, it provides the opportunity for people to balance their logistics risks. China is an important partner in Western Australia. China is an important supplier of these battery chemicals, but the COVID period reminded us of the need to manage our logistics risks, and so this is a way of having another logistics pathway for these important products.
Is there a need for more infrastructure around Western Australia to, I guess, open up some of these areas as well? Is there some focus on that?
So the good news is that we've got lots of infrastructure in Western Australia. You're not talking about large volumes of material, particularly in the rare earth space. So many of our projects are not constrained by infrastructure. But what we are concentrating on is making sure that we've got the industrial ready land in the places that are needed. And we're working with companies to make sure that the infrastructure and the industrial land is ready when projects proceed. And whether it's in Kwinana, Kemerton, Coolgardie, or in Port Hedland, we're working hard to make sure there's land available for industrial projects.
Recently, you were over in South Korea and in Japan. Are you finding that the international community is looking to WA for some of these resources?
Yeah, there's no question that the world is looking to Western Australia for these resources. I know I visited Canada to go to PDAC and I saw many of the exciting projects that there are in North America. And I know that those projects are going to have a strong future. But there's a couple of benefits here in Western Australia. First, it's much faster to get your project approved here in Western Australia. People can't believe how quickly projects can get approval here in Western Australia. The other advantage is that we might be far from the North American markets, but we're very close to the Asian markets. Yeah. And so I can see a future where many projects succeed because there's so much growth in demand. And I'm not troubled by the success in Canada, but what I'm looking forward to is continued success here in Western Australia because we've got the raw materials, we understand mining, we continue to have a long path of new projects, and now we're getting into this exciting new chemical industry of the midstream for both rare earths and for the battery industry value chain.
I think it's really important what you just said a moment ago, which is that connection to Southeast Asia, which is rapidly growing. And I don't think that people realise places like Indonesia, places like South Korea, there is so much of Asia which is growing much more rapidly in other parts, and we are beautifully situated. Australia as a continent, WA in particular.
Yes, I was really pleased to engage with Korean and Japanese investors when I was there in March, and there's an excitement about the opportunities that partnership with Western Australia allows for the growth of industry in our North Asian trading partners, and we're excited by that too. And there's a good reason, as I say, to do the chemical processing stages here in Western Australia. It's a good symbiotic relationship where both our partners and Western Australia could succeed in our own niche in this decarbonisation journey.
Minister, the government is investing $40 million to accelerate these critical mineral discoveries. Can you just share with our audience how that $40 million is going to be pushed out into those critical mineral discoveries?
Yeah, so there's $4 million for the Minerals Research Institute of Western Australia to support the R&D that we know is required to support the critical minerals industry here in Western Australia. That's the early stage technology development. And the other $36 million is going to the geological survey to improve our understanding of the geology here in Western Australia. And that adds to our existing data transformation strategy, where we're taking the geological survey's analogue data, turning it into digital machine learning capable data so that there's even more understanding of the opportunities here in Western Australia. And that, of course, adds to the exploration incentive scheme, half of which is for the geological survey to do pre-competitive data acquisition, and the other half is for our very highly sought-after co-funded drilling and co-funded innovative exploration activity. So whilst most people know that the exploration incentive scheme supports drilling, we also extended that out to other forms of innovative exploration activity for both minerals and energy resources. So there's a real opportunity to continue to find these critical minerals here in Western Australia.
It's interesting when you say that transforming all that data, which is a massive job. Do you think technology is helping us in terms of, data and understanding some of these geological structures and the ability to find some of these critical minerals?
Look, as a layperson, I get astounded by the way these scientists can use the data that's available to explain what the Earth contains.
Yeah.
And I know that there's been many projects that have used the pre-competitive data that's available from the Geological Survey, and we know we have to continue to improve that. And then they combine that with the co-funded exploration, co-funded drilling, and there's so many projects that have been found because of that pathway.
Challenges that you see facing the industry as we, I'm talking to you now in April of 2023. Clearly, 3 years ago when you last spoke to us, that it was the challenge of COVID. That's kind of behind us now. What do you see, if any, challenges going forward?
Well, there's always a new challenge, isn't there? And the challenge that's most in front of mind is, of course, the labour question. And we do know we've got this great success, and so there's many people who have got jobs, and that's a great outcome. But it does mean that people sometimes can't find the labour that they need as quickly as they need. So we are supporting training for the West Australian workforce, both for new entrants and for upskilling the existing workers. But we're also supporting international immigration, interstate move, to get more people here in Western Australia. The other challenge, of course, is the need to decarbonise. And so the mining industry has its own decarbonisation journey, and we're seeing great success in people investing in renewable energy projects on mine sites. I mean, just as an example, the Agnew gold mine is now reduced its carbon emissions by 80% by using renewable energy. BHP Nickel West has a stated ambition of going to full renewable energy. The iron ore players are rapidly installing maybe as much as 9 gigawatts of renewable energy in the Pilbara. There's great excitement about that. There's also other opportunities that we're working with industry to make sure that can be executed here in Western Australia. But of course, it's also an opportunity as the demand for metals increases. We all know that an electric vehicle requires many times more metal than a traditional car. So that's an opportunity for the mining industry. So yes, there's challenges, there's always challenges, but we're ready to face those challenges.
Speaking of electric cars, WA is a great big state. And I know that there was recently some talk around some of these EV I know this is not quite mining, but
That's
it
right.
kind of fits in with critical, I think, Minister. There's been talk of how difficult it is to find the charging stations. Is that something that the government over there is addressing, and can you see that you can keep up with that? There's a balance.
Yes, there is. So look, I mean, obviously we would expect the private sector to be the principal source of solutions for this. But in the meantime, we are stepping in. We're creating the world's largest electric highway, which will run from Eucla in the South Australian border all the way through the state, right up to Kununurra. So that everybody will be able to drive an electric vehicle effectively anywhere, anywhere with a population centre. There's always bits of Western Australia that are very remote, but all the main population centres will be connected by EV charging stations less than 200 kilometres apart. So that's to give the backbone for the charging infrastructure. But we know that private sector are investing in charging infrastructure as well. Just as an example, the Australian company Ampol is putting electric chargers into their petrol stations. So we know that the private sector are going to invest into this space as well. But we want to put that backbone in so that people can be confident you can drive literally from one side of Western Australia in the south through the southeast, through to the southwest, up to the northwest up to the northeast and still have electric charging infrastructure.
I think that's fabulous, but what's your time frame on it, do you think?
The construction, the build's already underway. The first of those electric stations are opening right now, but it is a 4-year build because it is a very big job.
It's a big state. It's a big job. Minister, one of my favourite subjects in the world, most people know this, is gold. And Western Australia has got a lot of gold. And, as I sit talking to you again, April 23, the Australian dollar gold price is, I never know why we always talk about US dollar. I'm like, no, the Aussie dollar gold price is like $3,000. It's all-time high. Lot of gold over there in WA. What's your views? How's it taking shape? Is there lots more to be discovered? And how important is it to you?
Yeah, so we had a record year in gold as well. So we sold $17 billion worth of gold, which was on obviously a high price, but also on good production numbers. We're seeing new gold mines. The Hemi deposit for De Grey up in the north, or the Bellevue Gold Project coming very soon into production. So there's good new finds, and there's the long traditional mines north and south of Kalgoorlie. I'm sure there's a lot more gold to be found. We're looking forward to even more projects coming ahead. Havieron replacing Telfer. We've got the new Gruyere project now. It's a few years old. Lots of opportunity around there. The Hemi discovery showing that there's a new gold province to be exploited in the Pilbara. There's lots of upside for gold, is my view. It's a great industry. The government of Western Australia really likes to support the gold industry because we know for every dollar invested in gold, there's more jobs created than some of the other commodities. So we're very strong supporters of the gold industry.
And for, ladies and gentlemen out there, gold actually helped to build Australia, just quietly.
Exactly.
So we
right.
love that too. Minister, I'm going to leave you to say the last words. We've got a very big investor audience out there, not just the mining industry itself, but everyday mum and dad investors that are interested in resources that watch our channel. Last thoughts to you as to the forward-looking for resources in Australia.
Well, I think that the resource industry in Australia has a strong future, and it's nowhere better than here in Western Australia. When I became minister in 2017, 50% of exploration activity was here in WA. Now it's 2/3. It just shows you that we are, doing well here in Western Australia, that we're a mining state. We understand the needs of the mining industry. We understand that you can't have a zero carbon future without mining, that gold mining is so critical to Australia, that we're a country now that relies on mining, whether it's in iron ore, whether it's in gold, whether it's in these new metals. We support that because it creates jobs and gets benefits for Western Australia and for the nation. And if you think you took out of Australia, if you stop the mining industry here in Western Australia, Australia would not be a rich country. We would not be able to have the high level of lifestyle that we enjoy. So we here in Western Australia, the government of Western Australia, the McGowan Labor government, we strongly support the mining industry, and we hope that it continues to attract long-term investors to get the best out of the resources in this state.
I actually was going to finish up there, Minister, but I do want to ask you one final question, and that is, how do we get everyday Australians to understand more that, the mining industry is actually critical, not just to, the decarbonisation of the world, but for the wealth of Australia and everything. It feels to me sometimes that many Australians are disconnected from this sector. And I, for one, am passionate about this industry, and it is so important to Australia, but many people, they don't understand it and they think it's a dirty word.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have an understanding of the modern mining industry and how, we're successful because we apply technology to solve problems. the modern mining industry in Western Australia is about robots, remote sensing, and artificial intelligence. And people don't understand that who are not so involved with the mining industry. It's very important that the mining industry explains ourselves to others, but it would be also good with the finance services sector would explain to their customers how critical mining is to Australia. Because certainly, as I say, the McGowan Labor government in Western Australia, we understand that we're going to need more mining, not less, in the future. We don't have coal mining here in Western Australia. We don't have, or not much. We don't get involved in that debate. And we do understand that we need to have energy to support our high standard of living. And we do understand that you need minerals to create the goods that we all want to enjoy, to give us our high standard of living, our excellent lifestyle that we all enjoy.
Yeah, and that includes oil and gas as well, because, you know, you are the Minister for Energy, and that is a challenge for us at the moment.
Well, here in Western Australia, we have a different system to what applies on the East Coast. We've managed our own affairs here much better than one could say than on the East Coast. We have a domestic gas reservation policy, and the great thing about that is that we don't compete between exporting and domestic use. The more you export, the more that's available domestically. It's a good system. We also have a different system for our electricity network here in Western Australia, which we didn't privatise. And so we've got a lot more control, a lot more capacity to act fast here in Western Australia, because renewable energy is coming. It's a cheaper form of energy, but it does bring its own challenges with it. And so we're ready to meet those challenges.
Well, perhaps all of Australia needs to get together and try and figure out how to do this in its best way possible. But for now, Minister Bill Johnston, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Small Caps, and I hope to talk to you again in the not too distant future. But for now, thanks for being on Small Caps.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.